Buyers, buyers, buyers. Everything in this video series about how to be a kick-ass buyer's agent, because in this market right now, if you are not good at what you do, if you are not thoughtful and strategic about how you're working with buyers, you are losing a lot of offers, and that is draining. That's probably really hard to be a buyer's agent in this market and lose and lose and lose and lose. So let's talk about some of those things and being strategic with your buying clients right off the bat. My goal with this is a lot of times for new agents, it's hard to, you go to trainings and then you get out there and it's hard to know like the real stuff, the real nitty gritty stuff of how to work with buyers and how to be strategic about this. So that's what this series is going to be on. And what I wanted to start off with first is that first initial meeting when you're meeting with people. Okay, there's many different ways to do it. And obviously, who knows how you've met people? They might be a friend. They could have found you on social media. They know you through someone. Regardless of who they are, and even if they know you, we got to like add some value, and we have to have them know the value that we bring to the table. Okay. And going back for a second here too, like it's really competitive. There's a major lack of inventory. So even still, the market is slowed down a little bit, but there's multiple offers all over the place. How are you going to make you and your offers stand out so you can win more? I am convinced. I love our little team. I know, like with our little hustle and kind of things that we do behind the scenes, we get there, we get more offers done for our clients. Sometimes we're not even the highest offer, which is crazy, right? So let's talk about some of these strategies. So the first thing, this first series is going to be, when you meet your client for the first time. So now I'm more casual in how I do things. So a lot of times when I was meeting with buyers, I'm currently not taking buyers anymore. I'm only doing listings, but I've worked with many buyers over the years. Okay. I am more casual. I think there's two approaches. You either meet them in person and you sit down, whether it's, at a coffee shop or your office, and you have a sit down. Okay. Otherwise, for me, I've always been more casual, and I meet on location. So I'm meeting them. They want to see a home. They're like, they weren't even looking, and they're like, can I see this home or whatever it is? So I, a lot of times, have met on location, and then I go through these items kind of casually. Okay. But I make sure that we talk about them, especially in this crazy market. So here's the thing for me, I haven't been working with a lot of first-time home buyers. I'm working with people who are, downsizing, empty nesters, people more, my age, who have had home ownership, who have owned a few properties before. Okay. So if you are somebody who's working with a lot of first-time home buyers, Taya and Shelby on my team, they work with more first-time home buyers. Sometimes that is involved. That is, I think, smart to sit down with them at a coffee shop or wherever you choose and really talk about these items, because all of a sudden you get in a purchase agreement and offer writing scenario, right? And it moves really quick, and you're like, okay, highest and best is due at 5 o'clock. How high do you want to write? It can be really overwhelming for people, right? And you can lose buyers, and all of a sudden they're like buyer burnout. They're afraid, like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to renew my lease. Like, you got to talk about these things beforehand. And some of these, it's, if you're working with first-time home buyers, you might want to have that sit down a little bit more. It's probably going to be 45 minutes. Let them know, hey, I really want to help you. I find in this market that it can be really challenging for buyers. Many buyers are losing multiple offers before they win. So I want to sit down with you and really talk to you through that. That's what I'm going to talk about in a second. So maybe that is your approach. Again, for me, with my buyers, a lot of times I'm doing this and we're on location. We're looking at houses and I'm talking about these items. But okay, so I'm going to narrow this down to 5 different things that I would make sure that you are touching on. Okay. If you're not touching on these things, like all of a sudden, oh my gosh, like as a busy listing agent and doing open houses and all the things and talking to people, there's times where I hear like, oh, I've lost 3 offers. Maybe I need to switch agents. My agent isn't doing that great of a job because, we keep losing offers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're probably not listening to your agent about how to write strategically, right? So you want to talk about these things up front, honestly, so you do not get also blamed later. We're teaching our clients, we're in it all the time. They don't really know what's going on. And some of these things are kind of crazy too. Like, how far over list do you have to write to actually win, should they choose? So it's protect yourself as a realtor and your reputation by making sure you're talking, upfront about these things. So you're not the one where people are saying, oh, my realtor lost one, lost two, lost three, and all of a sudden they want to switch realtors when you poured in all that time. Okay, so let's talk about this. So the first thing I want to go over is what you bring to the table. What do you bring to the table? You need to make sure. So if you have a packet, you might have a packet ready. If you do, like I'm talking about our team sheet. Okay, so I'm going to probably casually talk about this, but if I was at a sit down, I would make sure I have a team sheet. And what I'm going to talk about, for me, it might be different. If you're on the Kelly Brown Homes team, if you're on a different team, whatever that is of how you add value, I'm going to say, hey, listen, we are super busy in the West Metro. I have a team of 10 agents. We are meeting with sellers all the time. And sometimes, when I know your criteria, I'm able to help match buyers and sellers. We do it all the time. I can't guarantee you that, but we're hearing about a lot of properties. So, just so you know, we're also meeting as a team every Tuesday, and we're talking about our buyers and sellers and seeing if we can match people. So this is a big value that we as a team bring to the table because we know about a lot of properties. If you are on a team like that, let people know that. Don't overpromise, but that is a huge value proposition to you. If you are not on a huge team, who are you networking with? Network with agents in your area, in your office. Find people who are doing like business and also give back. Be like, hey, listen, want to let you know you sell a lot in Maple Grove. Want to let you know this one's coming on the market, 550. Wanted to give you a heads up first. Okay, so give back in that way too, but make sure someone knows, especially too if they're a friend, right? Like, it's nice that they're using you, but you gotta come to the table, right? They're not going to recommend you or use you again if you're not good. It's nice that friends use us, but you have to have a great value proposition and let them know why they're using you. So that's my number one. What do you bring to the table? What is your value proposition for buyers? Okay. And it doesn't need to be like, my value proposition is this, like, just let people casually know, hey, on a busy team, work with a lot of people, find out about properties before they hit the market. Sometimes I'm able to help you with that and match buyers and sellers even before things go on the market. Can't promise. Don't overpromise. Don't overpromise. Number two, talk about the market. And that's why this is important too, because sometimes people who haven't been following the market, like right now, it's a crazy market out there. So, things that we're saying is, what do you know? What do you know about the market? Yeah, it's been really busy. So we're finding that we want to educate our buyers because we're finding a lot of buyers lose a few offers before they finally win. I don't want that to happen to you. I want to educate you on the market, and I will always give you ideas of how to be the strongest, and it'll always be your decision should you choose, but it's a very busy market right now. We've actually seen it slow down a little bit. However, we're still seeing, whatever's going on in the market, we're still seeing multiple offers. We might not be seeing 18 offers, but we might be seeing 3 or 4. It really depends. But we are seeing strong, again, every Tuesday, our team collaborates and we hear about what people are doing. So like for us, then we're using real examples. I'm saying, okay, actually, I just had one in Wayzata Schools. It was on for $750. It closed out at $775. Be careful. You can't really talk about these numbers until they've closed, right? But you can be roundabout. It was under 780. I don't know how you're going to do it, right? But you can let people know. Okay. Another property, also something that we're seeing is, oh my gosh, properties have been on for 7 days and then they go into multiples. Like, what the heck? You think it would be out of multiples. So just because a property has been on for 7 days doesn't mean always that you can write 30,000, $5,000, even under asking. Now, buyer, I'm happy to write up whatever you want, but I just want you to know as a team, we're discussing these things. A lot of times, even in this market, as long as a home is appropriately priced for the condition, it's not typically, we're not seeing selling for under. Happy to write it up for you, happy to do whatever you want, but at least you're giving that information. So second thing is talk about the market quick, let them know. Okay. Also, I just want to state here too, like you want to make sure you're talking to people about being quick, about seeing things when they're set up on a search, they can look at coming soon status and when those are going to hit the market. And I would be educating your clients and saying, hey, listen, when that goes on the market, we already want to have a showing. We want to be first in, we want to write the first offer, right? There's some strategy in that. Get in there quick and know that. Now, also, if you're a savvy buyer's agent and this is an awesome property, I'd be calling that listing agent and being like, hey, listen, I know it's in coming soon status. By the way, everyone gets fined if you show a home in coming soon status. You can get fined. I think it's $1,000 per. So you get fined, the listing agent gets fined. So no one really shows in coming soon status, but you can take out of coming soon status. You could be like, hey, these guys are in town for the weekend. They are non-contingent buyers. They are going to absolutely write strong, not be a pain in the ass with inspection, like all the things. I work a lot in this market. Is there any way we can get in Friday? Like you can always ask, like you're not always going to get a yes, but advocate for your clients. Try to get in there, especially if you've shown them a bunch and this is a hot property that you think it could work. There is nothing wrong with doing that, right? You got to be kind about it, but nothing wrong about doing that. So, okay. So you're educating them about the market and you're also letting them know, hey, listen, when these are in coming soon status, that is strategic. Let me know, let's schedule, let's get in there first. Let's go. Okay. I have found to win things, you have to be aggressive sometimes, like kindly aggressive, but you got to get in there and go. Okay. Number 3, offer strategy. So I'm going to do another series and dive into it more. But when you are talking to buyers, you got to, at some point, bring out this purchase agreement before you actually write up an offer. Okay. There's a lot of things in here. It is not, you need to let your clients know this is not just about price. There are actually 5 items in here that will not cost you any money, and you can write them stronger and be more strategic. Don't cost you any money, but they're going to make you look good. Writing a clean offer, really, really, really important. What does that mean? Is your clean offer. You're not asking for funny business. You're not asking for a warranty. You're not asking for personal property. You're not being a pain in the ass, right? You just are keeping it really, really, really clean. So I'm not going to dive into that right now. That's going to be another series on how I talk through this with a buyer. Okay. So, but this needs to be printed and shown to them and highlighted throughout, right? Highlighted the important parts, and you need to go over that for sure. Okay. If for some reason you're not going over that, you could actually do a video series like this and send it to them. You could have something like this that you're sending all your buyers to. Okay. So make sure that you are going over this purchase agreement before they are writing an offer, because they are likely going to be really, all of a sudden you're going to be like, okay, what would you like to do for earnest money? What would you like to do for the closing date? How much money would you like to write over asking? Do you want a warranty? Like all of these things. Like hopefully you don't, right? So all of these things you want to make sure you're having a discussion beforehand. Okay. So that is offer strategy. Okay. I'm going to throw in buyer love letters there. I'm going to do another series on that. Hey, listen, you might want to have a buyer love letter available. I have opinions on buyer love letters based on if I'm working with if I'm working with a seller or working with a buyer. If I'm working with a buyer, I'm trying to do all the things. Buyer love letters, although not everyone accepts them, are very, 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 very strategic to write. I am a big, big, big fan of them. This is a very emotional business. When somebody sells a home, it's very, very emotional. And although when I'm on the listing side, I encourage people to look at terms, I have had sellers choose an under, like, I don't know, maybe it's only $3,000 or $5,000 under, but they feel really good about that buyer. They feel really good about it. They really like that person. So that is absolutely strategy. I'm going to put that in there. And obviously you guys have already, if you haven't by now, with this buyer that you're meeting, you want to make sure you're figuring out their criteria and setting them up on an MLS search. Okay. So an MLS search, I would make sure, I'm going to touch on this just quickly and dive into it more later in another video, but I keep it as open as possible. Okay. So a lot of times what I'm doing is my clients are school districts. So they're Wayzata schools, Maple Grove schools, Minnetonka schools, whatever it is, I'm doing it on school districts. And the top things that I do are whatever bedrooms, because usually they're like 4+ bedrooms. Okay. If they have a garage stall preference, if they don't want a two garage, they only want 3, I do 3+. Some things people will tell you that I don't mess with on a search. I want a fenced in backyard. We can't really search on that. I want to be on a pond. There's some things that you actually could do on the MLS, but if an agent does not market appropriately, and you're relying on another agent to market appropriately on the MLS, then it's not going to be on the search. So be careful. Don't get too specific. If they only want newer construction, then do that year. Maybe they're only looking at 2010+. Okay. But keep it vague, because I tell you, more often than not, I've had people too, all of a sudden they'll pull up Zillow and they'll be like, hey, I want to see this home. Why is it not on my search? Okay, great. Well, it's not on your search because it's a 3-bedroom and you told me 4+. It's not on your search because you told me you had to have a 3-car garage, not 2, whatever that is. And that's why sometimes you want to keep it vague. Obviously, price point too is really, really, really important, minimum and maximum. And I tell people I want a minimum too, because if you don't want fixer uppers, I want to take that off. I don't want to waste your time, right? But also too, a lot of times with price, I tend to go a little, I don't know if it's 10, 25, $50,000 over. Hey, you don't have to look at these properties, but I just want you to see them, because should they decrease in price, or I want people to see that they're moving too. Again, you set up on a search and they say they only want 700, and all of a sudden they find on Zillow, Redfin, or whatever it is, something at 710. And they're like, well, why didn't I see this? Well, you didn't see it because of your price criteria. So be careful about that MLS search criteria and try to go wide and be vague. Now, buyers sometimes start off and they're like, I want 80 cities. Then eventually you got to hone in and change their criteria and let them know, hey, listen, when you know that you want to, you don't want certain cities, let me know and I'll remove them, so I'm not wasting your time with them. And also you want to get them up so you're not seeing 80 different properties all over the place. Usually buyers narrow down over time. Okay. So that was a long discussion about offer strategy. Okay. Now I'm going to talk. Okay. So buyer rep agreement. I would likely touch on this if you're not under contract with them. I would say, hey, listen, at some point we'll need to sign buyer paperwork. Today I'm going to send you agency. Remember, Real Estate 101, you need agency signed, and you're supposed to have it immediately at first substantial contact, right? Sometimes that doesn't always happen, but you need agency signed prior to the rest of paperwork. So I always tell people, agency, this is not a contract. This is required by the state of Minnesota. It just talks about, what options that you have as a buyer. I'm going to send that to you quick today. Please sign it. But then buyer rep agreement. Okay. And I'm going to go over that more in depth, but it basically, I would just say, at some point here, I'm going to show you a couple houses. Our kind of rule as a team is we're happy to show a couple houses, but then, we just want to know that we're working with you. And, we will drop everything. I will show you homes and I will work with you and do all the things. And we just need to have buyer rep paperwork. So that just means we're working together. You want to educate your people too. Guess what? When you're just buying a home, not selling, but buying only, pretty much work with me for free. Okay. So the seller in this market right now almost always pays commission. So you got to look on the MLS and make sure it says 2.7% commission, right? So I tell buyers, most of the time you're working with me for free. If there's ever a home on the market that doesn't pay my full commission, I will let you know. Okay. Sometimes this happens with new construction too, right? And you can decide what your strategy is on that. But, buyers, you're pretty much working with me for free, other than I have a $499 broker admin fee for you to cover. So that's all this means. And I'll cover buyer paperwork, but you're going to want to bring it up. Like, I don't work with people if they're not under contract at some point. I will be kind. I do trust people. Generally, more often, really, it's bit me in the butt maybe once with all the transactions. Like all of a sudden you put a ton of work into somebody and they leave and they're not loyal to you. I think if you work with them, they will be loyal to you, but you do want to have that. I will tell you the pain in the butt part of it is all of a sudden, if you're ready to write a purchase agreement and you don't have buyer rep paperwork, now you're sending them agency, buyer rep, purchase agreement, you're overloading them with paperwork. So check that off, get your ducks in a row. You can even say that to them. I'm getting my ducks in a row. Make sure we have buyer paperwork should you choose to write an offer. Okay. I'll dive into that deeper in a sec. So that was number 4, is just making sure you're talking about buyer paperwork upfront. So when you send them that, they're not shocked and surprised. Okay. The last thing I'm going to talk about on here to discuss with them, number 5, is a lender. So they may come to you with a lender. They already have a lender. Great. We want to make sure that we say something like, because here's the deal. We have vetted our lenders. I know they're going to show up. I know they're available on a Friday night, Saturday night, when everything is going on. All of a sudden, if they are working with a big bank, if they are, goodness gracious, working with Zillow or Rocket Mortgage or something like that, a lot of times, I mean, those are the ones that fall through. Talk to your title companies, ask them, what are the companies, what are the, lenders that you work with that aren't there for closing, that are a pain in the ass to get documents with, that delay things? Because guess what, guys? Even though it's their lender and you're going to remind them, hey, it's your lender, it's going to look like you. I mean, all this it comes full circle. You don't want any issues. Any issues can kind of always look like you, right? Even though it's not. So that lender, when I'm talking to somebody, okay, you don't have a lender, let me send you a few names. And I have these I always have on my notes, my list of lenders, and I'll give them 2 or 3. I'm not always playing favorites, but I don't want them to think I'm playing favorites. What I want them to know is I have vetted these people. I have worked with them. I know they're going to pick up your call. And also, what I know? That's so, so, so important. I know with my lenders, because I require it, they are going to call the listing agent when we write an offer and say, hey, listen, so-and-so, I just want you to know they're super qualified buyer, assets, income, and employment have been verified. There will be no issue with this file. Like, you want that abdication. So we have won offers not being the strongest by having all of our ducks in a row and including our lenders calling. Not all lenders call and advocate. And that is so, so, so important. So back to the conversation quickly about lender, have a conversation with them about lender. If they want to use their own lender, if it's a big bank, we have issues with those sometimes, and they don't win offer after offer, you might want to circle back at that conversation and say, hey, listen, I noticed your lender wasn't able to call on Friday night. You might strategically, you might want to, I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's obviously your choice, but here are some lenders should you choose to make a switch, because your lender is very strategic in helping us win. It absolutely matters. So I'm going to leave this series at that. So this was all about being a kick-ass buyer's agent and doing all the things and having these conversations up front with your buyers. So that first initial, when you're with them, conversation, first of all, you're talking about what you bring to the table, your team, or what value proposition you have. Second of all, you're talking about the market, so they understand the market. Third of all, offer strategy. You're touching a little bit on that. You're bringing out that purchase agreement. You're highlighting it. You're letting them know options. Okay. I will do another video on that because it's really important. Number 4, you're mentioning that there will be a buyer agreement. And number 5, you're bringing up the lender, because the lender is very strategic to helping you win offers. So there you go. Be a kick-ass buyer's agent. Do all the things. There's many realtors out there who aren't trying very hard. You can try hard. You can bring additional things to the table. It matters. I see it all the time as a busy listing agent. There's people that literally just send me an offer. I've never heard from them. I don't know their name. They don't even give me a summary. There is absolutely a difference between realtors, buyers agents who don't really show up and do the minimal, and then the one that does. And the one that does the extra mile as a listing agent, I'm going to be like, yeah, that person's going to be helpful. They're going to help me get this closed. They're not going to be a pain in the ass. When we need documents, they're going to be there. So stand out, do your things, and be a kick-ass buyer's agent. Okay, there we go.